Hi, this is Bravo21. I am a glider pilot and a sim developer, and the catalyst for this video is to introduce the Pirat SZD30 glider developed by Ignacy, which has been added to the freeware mod fleet. But in addition to going over this glider, I'm actually going to do a run through of the other planes and the gliders that are now available in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Before I start, I'll just give you an idea of how multiplayer soaring works in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we have quite an active Discord community in this Sim Soaring Club. I'll provide a link. All these things I mentioned, I'll do my best to provide links in the comments below. If not, just ask in the chat and I'll update it if I miss something. But basically multiple times a week. Regular times are Tuesday mornings, Europe time, Wednesday evenings, and Saturday evenings. We will do regular multiplayer flights, and we will announce the flight's going to take place a few days beforehand, although they are regular, and then we'll provide a briefing and a PLN file, a Microsoft PLN file, representing the flight plan and setting the weather. And we've got some preset weather that we use. Sim Soaring Weather West, for example. They're from different wind directions. There's something called the B21 Task Planner. Is also one of the useful tools we use. It's a free application that's just on the internet. It's designed as a web application. And it helps you view and create task plans, but also view track logs in those task plans. And then what we do is we have a set time where we arrange to meet, and then it'll kick off, and then we'll spawn into the sim at the same time, and then at an agreed start time, we'll say, right, the start gate is now open, and off we'll go. When we complete the flight, everybody now using the NB21 logger developed by Unbi and me, we create these IGC track logs, which then can be analysed after the flight, which is kind of quite good, and we post them online so people can see how you did, but also ultimately from those track logs, here's a real flight from last week, we can create a results list. Okay, so it's quite an active community, and I'll link to it below. Anybody joining it is welcome. Okay, back to the gliders. The first thing to point out is any of the freeware gliders, all the gliders are available as freeware. Any of those is better to start flying. If you haven't flown gliders in Flight Simulator, start with one of the freeware third-party ones, mods, rather than the LS8 or the DG1001 that comes with Microsoft Flight Simulator, because the instruments are better and the flight models are better. Give you a better introduction. Anyway, I'm going to run through them in order of performance. This one is the T31. Very, very, very basic. It's a real clunker. Here's the cockpit and the view from the outside. Okay, it's a very, very basic trainer, but all these gliders are still good fun. Okay, so if you've got the wind blowing against a mountain, something like you see in the background here, you can basically glide back and forth along it and see if you can make it back to the airfield. And you could stay up all day if you wanted to. Just take a closer look at the scenery around here. We're in Italy in this particular flight. Okay, so that's the lowest performance glider. Okay, moving up a fairly spectacular notch. Here's the K7 two-seater. Glides in the 67 model it. Very, very nice glider to fly. Okay, it is a low performance trainer, but it's got a proper instrument set. The instruments are properly calibrated and configured. With audio on the Vario and a Netto Vario in here. So we do regular cross-country flights. We rotate through the glider. On Wednesdays, we rotate through the gliders and fly a single type of glider. Cross-country flight on Wednesdays. Now on Saturdays, it's a similar idea, but anybody flies any glider they feel like. So we all tend to gravitate towards the much higher performance gliders. Okay, this is a lovely little glider, and it's incredibly well modelled and good fun to fly. Next up from that is the Pirat, modelled. This is the most recent glider, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time, and I'm going to come back to it. Modelled by Ignacy. A couple of these gliders, this is one of them. There are mods available that you really want to have as well. So there's the B21, I am B21 by the way, but there's the B21 Pirat mod on flightsim.to. I will link to it in the notes below, which adds an audio Vario to this plane. At the moment, we're hoping to get it built into the model. Here's the interior cockpit. So it's a nicely modelled plane. Kind of unique handling, which is probably true of the Pirat as well, but this is probably slightly more so in the sim. So quite heavy on the controls, but it really does give you something different to fly. And again, proper instrument set, very nicely modelled plane, and just huge fun to fly. The Pirat is a metal glider, and moving up in the range of freeware available in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Here is the cockpit of the LS4. We're moving to much sexier instruments, including a nav instrument for the first time in the range. Power those instruments up, and the nav instrument is not only directing you, it can load a flight plan direct. Otherwise you're going to be using an external map application like B21 Task Planner or a little nav map help you navigate around the task. With these, from here on out, these planes will have nav instruments built in, including the arrival height calculation. For it, it is taking into account what is the wind, how far have you got to go, how high are you, what speed are you flying at, and what's the glide performance of the plane you're in. And it will do an estimate of what height does it think you're going to get there at, and also for the first time in this range of gliders. We've included the concept of water ballast. So if you look at this number down here where it's reading 0, the LS4 loads in dry, but you can request a ballast fill by clicking this switch on the panel. If you look carefully, you'll see the nose just drop a little bit. All gliders become slightly more nose heavy when you fill the wings with 200 kilograms or 250 kilograms of water. That's always put forward of the centre of gravity for fairly obvious reasons. It certainly wouldn't be behind the centre of gravity and make the plane tail heavy. Okay, so both because we've now moved into fiberglass gliders, which can give you a laminar flow wing. So this is a 40-to-1 glider, but also capable of carrying ballast, which radically improves your high-speed performance. So we're starting to get serious now with the LS4. Moving up from the LS4, we're moving on to the 18-meter, but non-flapped, like the LS4, Discus 2, which is available from GotFriends. It's available both in a freeware version and a payware version. The payware version has self-launch. It's got a motor and a small prop that can get you off the ground. I'm going to show you the Microsoft Flight Simulator built-in launch options, which is based in Aerotow, which is very good, and the winch. And this is another of the gliders where you really want to fly it with a mod. In this case, with the Pirat, it's just simply it's my B21 Pirat mod, which just improves the instruments and the audio a bit. In the case of the Discus, it's this nav panel that's on the screen. Captain Jack has produced what's called the LXN mod. I'll provide a link to it. And the Discus is a great glider. It's modelled by GotFriends. They did a stunning job on it. A good flight model, particularly in version 2, which has recently come out. It is freeware, which is awesome. But the nav instrument is nowhere near as good as if the LXN nav mod is installed. So you definitely want to assume that. That'll be in the notes. And this is, like the LS4, it's a fiberglass glider. All of them are fiberglass now. No flaps, carries water ballast. This glider is exceptionally well modelled. I mean, GotFriends really know what they're doing. Okay, so something like a 45-to-1 glide performance. And again, great flight model. Good fun to fly. Relatively simple because you're not faffing about with flaps. Next up is the JS315, very high performance glider. This glider it's 15 meters, so a shorter wingspan than the Discus, which normally gives it less performance, but then it has flaps, which gives it exceptional performance, particularly at high speed, because you can optimize the wing for all speeds. And it is similar if we power up this panel. Definitely a high-tech panel. You'll see from here on out the gliders have got basically a similar looking set of instruments, but they differ slightly. So you can choose which you prefer. Okay, it's the 15-meter JS315. This is the JS318, so the same plane but with 18-meter tips on the wings. With a bit of luck you can spot the difference. These wings are significantly longer and the glide performance is significantly higher, particularly low speed, 56-to-1 I think. It's an incredible performing glider. And from inside the plane, it's got the same cockpit, so it's going to feel pretty similar. I forgot to mention last time, we were talking about flaps. So you have a landing flap, thermaling flap, low speed cruise, so you're just gently pulling up and lift, but you're flying in a straight line. And now you're getting more high speed flap, so 80 to 90 knots you'll be at flap 2. Any above 90 knots you're fully flap forward. Okay, and that's what being able to put these flaps into negative flap is what gives you particularly high speed. Okay, next glider here is the AS33, the Schleicher AS33, which is a direct competitor to the JS3. So in terms of performance, the AS33 and the JS318 are directly comparable and compete with each other in real competitions. The AS33's particular claim to fame, as modelled in the sim, so a very similar cockpit layout, similar instrument set to the JS3, but the AS33 has a self-launch engine, which makes it kind of quite good fun. If let's extend the engine, have a look at that from the outside. I'm choosing random liveries, by the way, when I'm loading these planes. So it's kind of the Thinkosaurus, Spectrosaurus livery. Okay, so that has a self-launch engine, which you launch just by throttling up. We're looking at is the DG808. It's another 18-meter flapped glider, so with similar performance to the JS3 and the AS33. In the sim, it actually has slightly higher performance. Like the Discus, the DG808 benefits from having this LXN nav board, but definitely a fun plane to fly. It has a jet. Let's see if it's up or not. I'm not sure. No, it has a jet self-launch engine. We put self-launch into these planes, so all these planes have a sort of self-launch. Pretty much all the planes have a self-launch winch capability, which we don't really need anymore because in the gliding update, Microsoft Flight Simulator Ahsoka added winch launch and aerotow for the gliders, which is awesome. Okay, let's go and have a quick fly in the Pirat, and that'll conclude this video. So I've already chosen the plane, but if I show you on the liveries with the B21 mod installed, there are these extra liveries. That's how you can tell where it says brackets knots at the end of the livery. But actually the mod applies to all of the liveries, like the audio vario and the changes to the sounds and stuff. But in addition, it adds these instruments. So let's pick the orange one for no good reason. Let's check our launch method. We're going to get an aerotow, which is good. It's exactly what we want. I'm going to hit space twice here. Load a flight plan. SSE Nickeldorf. I'll do. 245 northeast. So we want a northeast wind. I loaded the task. Let's load the weather, which was northeast. Soaring weather northeast. And we're going to set the date and time. We will have agreed this on the Discord of what's the date to be set. July the 25th, let's say. Anything 20 to 2 in the afternoon. Okay, and push fly. Okay, so here we are on runway 12, facing 120 degrees, which is kind of southeast. The wind is northeast, which means it's coming over our port wing. It's blowing from left to right here. Okay, I'm going to, as Jimmy, holding our wing, just sitting on the ground. The weight of the pilot in the front causes the Pirat to sit on its skid at the front. It doesn't have wheel brakes as far as I can tell, but you just push the stick forward and the skid will slow you down a little bit. Okay, so here's the spoilers. I'm going to waggle the rudder to signal to Jimmy. Left, right, left, right. You can see Jimmy starts waving to the tug. And off we'll go. The glider will come up off its skid really quite quickly as we pull forward. There you go. We're going to have a crosswind from the left we've got to watch out for, which is pushing the tail of the plane to our right. It's the tail fin that's affected by the wind. There you go. We've lifted off the ground already. And there you go. We're going to be crabbing down the runway because we're in this crosswind. Okay, so we're doing fine on the aerotope. Anybody that's seen one of my videos before knows I am no good at flying from outside the glider. Okay, we're off tow, and I've moseyed over to the south side of this valley. The wind is blowing from our left, and see it's blowing up this super steep slope on these rocks. That's lifting us up the hill. And the glider feels fairly heavy to fly. It's got a really quite a slow roll rate, so I understand that that's correct for the Pirat. We've probably overemphasized that in this sim glider. The glider is it's fine in pitch, but it's very slow to respond in roll, but it makes it an interesting plane to fly. So I'm S-turning in the ridge lift. You can see the vario on the left, which is a total energy vario. Showing we're climbing at maybe 5 knots. The right-hand vario is showing netto lift, i.e. what's happening outside the glider. So it's, the difference between the two is simply the sequencing rate of the glider. See, super easy climb. And if you look, in fact, if I point at it, dead ahead now, just on the edge of the valley, dead ahead is the airport. We'll go back down there and load. There's no yaw string on this glider yet. I know Ignacy, first of all I want to repeat my thanks to Ignacy for modelling this glider. Great job. If he gets the time for it, he'll model a yaw string, but it's all a question of finding the time. But as you can see, he's done a very good job on the glider. It's a lot of effort, so congrats, Ignacy. So here we are flying back up the valley. We've passed Nicholasdorf to our right, so I'm going to do a 180 and come in and land with the crosswind still coming from the left. Let's see how that goes. We're about 600 feet off the ground here, I think. We'll see what altitude the airport's at when we get there. I think it's about 2,000 feet-ish. So we'll be eyeballing at this stage, making sure we do clear these trees on the approach. I've got the air brakes spoilers half open at the moment. Bit of excess speed probably. Bring it down to, I don't know, 50 something. There we go. So that's the speed about right, half air brakes. Crosswind from our left. Using the air brakes a little bit, not sure what I'm doing. Yeah, you can see the windsock telling us there's a crosswind coming in. Opening the air brakes. 3/4 air brakes now. Just take it in for gentle landing. Might kick the rudder straight as we come in. There you go, kicking the rudder straight. And I'm actually going to push it down onto its nose, and the skid with a bit of luck will slow us down. There you go. Thanks very much, Ignacy.